We're live. Hey, welcome everyone. Dan here with Chief Experts on with the Designer Show. And we've got our good friends, my good friends. I don't know if you guys are all good friends or not. John and Renee and Kevin. And I haven't heard from Robin, so I'm not sure if she's going to be here or not. But welcome, you guys. How you doing?
Good. It's good to see you, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Kevin, it's good to see you.
Nice to see all of you.
Renee, it's good to see you too.
All right. I was waiting for it. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all in, what's it now? We're down to what, 4 weeks now?
Something like that.
Less than that.
Yeah. So speaking of that, as long as we're speaking of that, you brought it up, Kevin. We still have 3 rooms left there. So if anybody is interested in that event, by all means, click on the little link on the page here. Let me show my screen.
And to fill in that gap while Dan's trying to figure out how to fill in his screen, these 3 rooms, these things are worth a lot to all of you who haven't been here. You're talking about hanging out with some people that are really, really deeply invested in Chief, and the conversations after hours are amazing, not to mention the social time that we spend walking to and from downtown Coeur d'Alene and enjoying that. But
I don't think our conversation after hours are amazing. Our conversations the whole time we're there.
Well, they are. That's right. They're amazing. So come be part of this gang. It's pretty incredible.
It really is fun, and we do have a really, really good time there. If you go to that page, there's the link on the page here, the show page. It'll also be, I don't know if it's on the homepage yet or not, but we have 3 spaces, and yep, there it is. So there it is right there. So you can click on that and learn more about this event. And
you can, Richard, you can just come.
So check it out. Also, still got a little room in our class starting on Monday here in Minnesota. So if you have any interest in that, there's a link right below the show video that you're watching that you can find out a little bit more about that. We've got 12 people that will be in the class. We try to cap it at 14. So if you're so inclined, I would love to have you there. It's a beginner intermediate course. So if you've been using Chief for quite a while already, probably you'll still learn a ton, but I don't know. Again, we always kind of, if we can keep it more beginner intermediate, that'd be awesome. Of course, I don't even know what intermediate means anymore, but it's
that gap between us normal folks and Renee.
No, that's the gap between intermediate and way advanced.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me is intermediate to me is like 4 to 6 years in the software, which is nuts, Well,
this day and age, that's probably true. So anyway, and then we've got the registration is open for this Total Immersion Summit in March of next year, getting people in there. So there's still space. Check it out. Give me a call if you have any questions. So we'd love to have you there. It's an amazing event. All right, enough commercials for today. We were going to talk about some Chief Architect stuff today. How about that? And to do that, let me go to Chief Architect.
And we got to tell the audience, gear up your questions that they've been burning a hole in your mind for the last couple of weeks. If you got a project and you ran into something and you're like, man, this seemed like it was difficult. Maybe it didn't need to be that difficult. Go ahead and throw it in the comment sections. We're monitoring the comment sections.
Yep. We'd love to get your questions. I wanted to talk a little bit about 2D CAD. Renee and I were talking yesterday, and he was mentioning that a lot of people, not a lot of people are not, but people are questioning the power of Chief's 2D CAD. Was that kind of what we talked about, Renee? I don't remember.
A lot of people that are coming from AutoCAD background, where they have, maybe they have years in AutoCAD and they come in and try to do CAD work in Chief, and it seems like Chief has the worst CAD in the world to those users.
Until they come to our class.
Yeah. Until they come and check it out and see what we can do with it.
And then they realize that, this is really extremely powerful CAD program. Chief's 2D tools are really, really powerful. They really are. They're just different. So when we talk about the CAD in Chief, we're talking about these little tools up here. Kind of. Those are, to draw lines and rectangles and all that kind of stuff. But really the whole program is a full-blown CAD program. So everything you do with lines and squares and rectangles, you do with pretty much everything in the program. So once you learn the techniques on doing that kind of stuff, it really makes a big difference. Let me just cover a couple of things real quick. Just a few strokes, keystrokes. Let me just open a new plan, which I don't have the right template loaded, but I'll just use this. So when you're working with Chief, and if you're coming from a different CAD program, or even if you're not, you just want to learn how to use Chief better, there's a bunch of things you need to know about some of the tools here. So everything in Chief starts with a line. Okay, so when we draw a line on the screen, everything in Chief starts with that. Walls, doors, windows, everything. That's everything in Chief is based on a line like that. It's also based on a polyline shape. Okay, so when you hook some lines together, they form a closed space, and that forms a shape. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty about that. But so one of the things, if you're used to drawing with AutoCAD and you like to put dimensions in as you're drawing, as you draw, hit your tab key. Okay, so when you hit your tab key, it's going to open up this coordinates box. And you could do this with anything that you click on at any time. So if I want that to be 10 feet long, I'm just going to type 10 feet to the right. If I want it to go 10 feet to the left, I'm going to put a minus sign in front of it. So again, remember that XY positioning in Chief. X is back and forth. Y is up and down on your screen. Minus X would be to the left. Minus Y would be down. So if I'm just going to type 10 feet, it's going to move that line 10 feet that way. So it's a very basic CAD stuff that we need to know. So that line is now 10 feet long. So if I open this dialog, it's 10 feet long. So if I want to move that line, hit your tab key. I'm going to move it down 2 feet. Okay, done. So the tab key becomes that key to open up the coordinates in the thing. Now,
Tab or enter.
Tab or enter.
Yeah.
So if I hit the enter key when I'm drawing a line, it does the same thing. When did they do that? Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, I learned something new today. That's why we hang out with each other. Cool. I didn't know that. But I guess it's easier to reach for the tab key than this enter key. That's on the other side of the keyboard. All right, so things like that. Dimensioning things in Chief. I've always taught, especially beginners, get used to drawing the shape that you want and then dimension it. So you click on an edge. This is the active edge because I've set my colors to show me that this edge it's got the blue handle on it. That means I click there. Now I can click that number and I can move that edge to wherever I want. So simple little things like that. I don't know. What do you got? Suggest something here for me.
Okay, we'll show the trim tool, show extend.
Trim and extend. That's always a good one.
Fence tool.
So
the extend CAD tool.
And point out that these two tools, trim and extend, are invaluable. They'll pull you out of more situations than you can imagine. So while it's nice to know how to get a box drawn to the right dimensions, when you're drawing a bunch of lines that are all crowding your visual plane and you need to make them the same length, extend them to another point, pull a rafter to its edge, anything like that, these tools are great. So watch in this and learn.
I think my number spells decimal feet. That tends to make a difference when you're typing in 16. So this little button down here, number style, affects how you type numbers into these dialog boxes. I was just working on a plot plan and everything I was doing was in decimal feet. So I had checked decimal feet. All right, so now I'm back to regular feet and inches. I want to move this line every 16 inches. So there's the tool. So I clicked on that and there's a multiple copy button down here. It's a wonderful tool, does a ton of things.
Will you stay on multiple copy and show what you can do with it with a box, with a polyline,
the X and Y
box?
Okay, let's draw a little 6x6 box. So we're going to go 6, tab 6, enter. There's my little 6x6 box. I want to lay out some tile. So I'm going to just...
Let's concentrically expand it based on multiple copy.
Oh, now you're going to get all this tricky shit in here. Let me just do this first, and then we'll come back to your deal. But I want to lay this out. So let's go 6.25, and then I want to go down 6.25. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. Now I have to use my right mouse button to make this work. So I just
and you're holding your right mouse button.
Holding my right mouse button down. Yep. If this is your mouse, I'm holding my right mouse button down.
You went really fast. You want to do that again?
Absolutely. Oops. All right. So you've drawn a box the size you want. I want to leave a little space between the box to represent a grout line. So I'm laying out tile. So now I'm going to hit multiple copy, and I'm going to click on it again to open the dialog. So I put 6 1/4 here, and I put 6 1/4 on the secondary alternate behavior. If you're going to use this, you have to use your right mouse button. Okay. If you're just going to use this, just use your left mouse button. Doesn't matter. Okay. So here we go. So now I'm going to drag it with my right mouse button. And when I let go, I'm going to just pull down. So now I don't have my hands on my mouse at all. And I'm just pulling up and down. And then I click when I'm done. So there's my tile layout. And I could take that now and I could convert that to 3D tile. So if I had drawn that on elevation and I want that to look like 3D, I would just hit the convert button, which you cannot do them all at once. In fact, they've made it less each time. Come on, Chief. Really? Because I always like to lay out my tile before I make them 3D. Because on an elevation, if these are 3D, you can't group select like that. You have to select them one at a time. We should try the fence tool on that, see if they've made any changes there. Used to be I could select about this many tile. They've made that less now. So now I could convert that to 3D by making it into a slab. Click OK. Make that 1/2 inch thick. Click OK, and then there's my tile. So if that were part of a 3D model on the elevation, that's where it would be right now. So there's my tile. So that works pretty well.
So
Renee, let's hear your deal. So what do you want to do?
Also show us subtraction is another one to do, but let's continue with the multiple copies. So draw a polyline box.
And by the way, this is a polyline box versus a box. Okay, this will always be a 4-sided box. Period. This is like a box drawn with 4 lines. So you can reshape that box any way you want to. You can add edges to it. You could do anything you want to it. So just like most of the boxes in Chief. All right, what do you want now?
Do multiple copy.
How many copies do you want?
Just hit the multiple copy tool.
Let me get back to this. And I'll just, since I already had this set up, I'll just use that.
And then go ahead and press OK for your interval, and then drag your round edit handle.
This one.
Yeah, so you don't want to zoom in so we can see this, but yeah.
Okay, so now it's now it's snapping up at. By the way, you can, if you hold your mouse button down, you can use 2 hands for this, but it works. So now I'm making copies 6 1/4 inches bigger at a time. So that's cool.
And then go ahead and release that action. There we go. Now do multiple copy again and drag the angle edit handle.
The angle, this one?
Rotate, yep.
Okay. Just drag it where?
Left or right.
Oh yeah, now we're making copies. This is Spirograph. This is cool. Okay.
And then drag a polyline box and use it for a subtraction or a union or an intersection.
Just take this and subtract. We want to trim it.
Well, that's trim. So go ahead and show trim.
Right.
Trim's a great one.
Okay, so I'm going to trim to that line. Why is it not trimming?
That's a good question.
Use the right
Did you use a? Yeah, you. Okay.
It's not a solid, is it? Oh, they're solid. That's why.
Oh, that's funny.
You can't trim solids.
I want to try something when you get done with that. Try doing it with a material region on a wall.
So what I did is I
See
just
if that
hit,
trims.
what I did is I just clicked on those boxes that I'd made 3D, and there's a little icon down here, looks like a black magic one. I clicked that, and that made all these boxes back into 2D boxes. Now they're not 3D anymore. So now when I use the trim function, so I'm going to click on what I want to trim to. I'm going to click on the trim tool. That's this tool here. It looks like a scissors trim. That makes sense. And I'm just going to fence over, draw a line off of the things I want to trim. And you'll notice what it leaves up there. So you can see it's leaving all of those items. So I've just trimmed all those off. I'm going to trim the rest of that off. Done. So that's how the trim tool works.
In the case of what you just did, there's a difference between, and will you undo a couple times? There's a difference between using the trim tool in this instance. The trim tool will leave something that is no longer closed. It's no longer a closed polyline. Now, instead, take a box and use it, as a subtraction from those items.
Like that.
And a box will leave a closed polyline.
All right. I was hoping you'd teach me how to do this one.
Okay. You won't be able to do it all at once, though. But
so now I'm going to hit the trim.
No, you're going to hit subtraction.
Oh, this one. Intersection, union, subtraction.
Yeah. And you're going to have to highlight just one of them.
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
No. Oops, I got the wrong side.
Nice.
Okay, let's do that again. So click, subtraction, click up here. Let's turn this off. Would you like to retain the original? No. Oh, why is it still doing the bottom side?
You see this comment from Richard. You have to use the union subtraction tool if you want to, keep a closed polyline trimmed. Not necessarily true. If the line you're using to trim contacts the bounds of the tangent sides, it will close the polyline when you trim it.
Okay, I was doing it backwards. With these tools right here, okay, you click on the item you want to keep first. All right, I was doing it like the trim tool, or I was clicking what I wanted to trim to. This is different. Click on the piece you want to keep, then do the subtraction, and then click on what you want to subtract. And now it does it. Now it kept it closed.
So can you select all of those boxes
and do that? I
above the line?
I doubt it. Let's try it. You don't want to do that. Oh my God.
Look at that.
Look at that. And that's how you would trim the tile off on the edge of a room. I never knew that. Thank you. God, I just learned something new.
Man, Dan, you're learning a lot today.
God, I'm on a roll. I have to get together with you guys more often. This is why we hang out with each other, guys. So come and join us. All right. So let's go back to that example of that tile. I'm going to do a bunch of times here. So let's say that you're working on a room layout of some tile, and these are probably all 3D at this point. Let's see. There we go. So if the room ends, so if you've laid this out and the room ends here, okay, in the middle of a tile. Now I want to trim the tile to the wall here. Well, I can't use the wall to trim the tile because what it'll do, if I do that, it doesn't even give me the option. So what I would do is we're going to subtract, because I want to keep the tile closed so I can make them 3D. So we're going to do this. So now we're going to grab these tile here.
Wait, not yet.
Okay, not yet.
Break your box you put on there to trim it and drag it up the other wall so it does everything at once.
Or union it to one that's dragging up the wall.
Yeah.
Or that would work too.
Well, let's just I'd have to do a fence now, wouldn't I?
No, just select all your boxes.
Can I select them all?
Or select your boxes with yeah, that'll work. You're gonna leave some behind though.
Well, that's cool. I can just zip those right out of there.
Yeah.
But now I've got closed boxes that I don't have to finish closing the end. So now I could convert all these to 3D right away, and done. That's huge. Thank you. I like that one.
Put a circle in the middle of that and do the same thing.
We could get Kevin's face out here.
Yeah, that would work.
So let's see. So if I select all these and I deselect the circle and I hit extract, and then I click on the circle. Look at that.
There
It
you
closed all those up nicely. Oh my God. That's huge. You guys are amazing. All right. Well, let's go back to plain old simple dimple where we're going to just trim the ends of lines. So you just have lines you want to trim. This could be framing items too. And so
Does anybody remember why we're here?
we're talking about CAD stuff. This is CAD. So now I'm going to hit the trim tool and I'm going to just go around here and trim it off. Okay. So here again, I selected what I wanted to trim to. Click the trim tool and then drag a line over what you want to trim off. Okay. See, this is intermediate. This is beginner. Okay. That's the difference between intermediate and beginner. And Renee's probably got something else he wants to tell me that's super advanced. So,
I'm setting it up right now.
Talk about
I'm setting it up right now.
all right, cool. So I want to trim off that circle. So I'm going to hit the circle, hit the trim tool, fence over those lines in between, done. Now I just cut those out. So that'd be the same with framing. Framing does do this automatically where it keeps that in there. So if you lay out some floor joists, for example, I'll turn on my layers for that. And I make some copies of that using multiple copy. And I want to trim those. Now I just draw a line over them.
you can draw another floor joist over them too.
Well, let's see if the line works. The line never used to work to,
I'm pretty sure it does now.
I think it does too. It would leave the ends of the joist square, but now it's making them angled. So now you've got those. And if you were to look at that, there's your
You can
3D.
do the same thing with a beam or a floor joist.
Yeah. All right, whatever. Framing's there.
Talk about getting it to rotate around a current point versus the center of an object.
I do use that a fair amount. I thought more than I thought I would. So let's say that I'll just do a simple thing. I want to make a bunch of circles rotate around this circle. All right. So I want to leave a circle every 2 feet. How big is my circle? Every 6 feet. All right. So if I go up here and I put in 6 feet, does it work like this? And I try to make copies of this, it's going to just see I can't do it around that circle. But if I use a current point to rotate around, because everything's set up by default to rotate around the center of an object. So when you rotate something, it's automatically going to rotate around the center of the object. See how it's rotating on the center of that line? That's true for everything by default. So now I want to rotate around the center of the circle. The first thing I have to do is put a current point because you're rotating around a current point. So you're going to click on the point tool up here. You're going to place a point. Let's just snap to the center of that circle. It doesn't have to be a circle. It could be any point anywhere. It doesn't matter. Now I want to rotate my copies around this. So in order to do that, I have to change a setting in Chief, which is under Preferences, CAD. Well, actually, we could do this now. This transform replicate, and now we could change this about the current point. So we're going to make copies. We're going to make 20 copies, or we'll go 10 copies. We're going to rotate them. What would be the correct distance I would put here? There under angle distance, or would I put it?
Go click on rotate, and you might be able to just click on the around current point. Change that down there to rotate on around current point.
Yeah, but how many? So 10 copies.
Just go by degree. You're just rotating about degree. That's all.
All right.
So you're making a copy at every degree interval.
Oh, that would be placed. Okay, where is it?
So angle under rotate.
Angle right there. So every 20 degrees.
Oh no, one more.
Yeah.
Go down.
That's a move. That's a move.
Oh, the one that says angle on it. Okay, every 20 degrees. So now, here it did it automatically. Okay, now if I click this, I didn't set that, did I? No. Okay, so now
No,
I got to
use
go back
the,
here. So about current point. If I'm going to use multiple copy, I think I have to go up to preferences and change this under, where'd I go again? Edit. Where'd they put it? Current point. Under behaviors, current point. Now when I do my multiple copies, I will do, no, still not working.
No, hit the, does
Oh,
the road?
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Wrong button. This one. Come on. I haven't done this for a while, but I've done it many times. Let's see. Multiple copy. Grab this.
That's going to go about it. You,
Well,
you
I
placed a new
moved.
point.
I moved my. I placed a new point, didn't I? See that? I'm
Yeah.
just showing you what not to do. So I could hit
Oh
my,
man, look
my
at this
delete
comment.
key.
This is going to stick with me forever. Oh,
Boy,
dang it. Why'd you do this to us? This isn't fair at all. Making copies.
There we go. So, where would you use that? I don't remember.
I would use it if I was doing a house with a garage sitting at it off at an angle, and I get it all done, and I realize, shoot, it's too wide. I need to change the angle to make it a little bit tighter for the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just put a current point where I want the connection to stay, and do draw a box around it, and do my edit area, and then I could rotate that around that current point.
Okay.
You could have tightened those circles up and converted them to solids, and then unioned them and made some kind of fluted column.
There you go.
All right, I
That
got one. We're going to show the Transu stairs.
All right, go for it.
My favorites.
We'll go full screen.
This
on
is
that
just
one.
more union stuff, right? So selecting a bunch of polyline boxes using the subtraction tool to subtract Kevin's face. And then while this is still selected, I can go ahead and convert these to landings. And there you go. You have the Kevin Transu shaped staircase.
Very nice.
New posts, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I got to turn on all the railings and posts.
We have a lot of fun with Kevin, in case you didn't notice. I should say Renee has a lot of fun at Kevin's expense, if you haven't noticed.
Got to highlight.
I'm going to
Okay.
build those someday.
There are some questions. We should get on some questions. We only got a half hour left.
All right, what's the question?
We had one early, which was Nikki Kelly was asking, my interior railings are cutting the ceiling finish. I can't figure out the fix. I'm just going to give like a blanket approach to this. Sometimes you need your railing, even though it's going to be a railing in its end form, to be using the same wall type as the wall type above or below. So,
Or at least defined the same way.
Yeah, if you're using a stucco 6 wall type below or above, then you should try to use a stucco 6 wall type and convert it to change the designation to a railing. And sometimes that will do some infill where some stuff is missing. Other than that, we'd have to see an example of this probably.
A lot of times when I see that problem, the railing wall style doesn't have any interior or exterior material on it.
Yeah.
It's just got framing, so then it won't fill in between the ceiling and the floor.
Right, or someone used like the room divider tool beforehand, or
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, if you don't have a sheetrock layer on your wall, it won't fill the end in.
yeah.
So you have to. You can't just use a framing wall. You have to use a framing wall with sheetrock on one side at least.
Got one here that says, since you have the site plan up with the survey, I always have an issue with terrain features like driveways having irregularities in 3D at the front of the garage door. And I'm going to add something to that too. Sometimes I'm
going to go talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that one.
I'll come back to it. Okay.
Okay. I love this comment, Amzi. Thank you. This is why we do this. So what I'm going to do is post a link that if you guys on this call wouldn't mind clicking on that link or copying and pasting it in the browser, leave a Google review for us, for Chief Experts. I'd love that. I preach to everybody all the time. Yeah, get your Google business up and get your reviews, but I never do it. So I'm doing it right now. So I'm practicing that. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I would love it. Thank you. So Google reviews come when you ever been to a Google map and you click on it and you see the reviews. Well, there they are. So I'd love to see your guys' reviews there. In fact, look at that, Andy, put a review there, but you can do another one. Cool.
And congratulations, by the way.
Yes, exactly. Congratulations. That is absolutely awesome. So you'll have to share that, some pictures and things with us. I'd love to see that. So let's go talk about terrain.
Wait, I got one too.
Oh,
I got one too.
Go ahead.
I'm posting mine.
Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, yeah, we should all go leave a rabbit review. So, all right.
Did you want to get back to that site plan one?
Yeah, let's go back to site plan. I want to talk for a minute about site plans.
Let me just mention the one thing I was going to say about this is sometimes you have your terrain set to have a flat pad. Actually, I don't know the correct terminology, but in the terrain dialog itself, the building might have a flat pad, and you might not have the correct elevation next to your garage, which would then cause a bunch of interpolation spikes.
I've never had an instance where I've used that flat pad checked in. Make sure that's never checked in. So at least, unless, if you can show me a reason why, I'd love to hear it, but I've never had an opportunity to use that. Let's just talk a little bit about what I've got on the screen here. So this is a project that I'm working on for a client. And as you can see, it's a house on a hill in California. The view on this is like, yeah, it calls for a bigger house than this. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, look at all the windows we got going here. But the view is incredible. I think it's, what do you say? It's 15 miles from the ocean, and you can see the ocean clearly, really well, plus all the mountains in between. But here's the terrain. So most of the lot is existing. I've had to we had to put the driveway in and things like that, and it's close. There's still some things that I'd like to fix up a little bit, but we're still in the preliminary stages. So I'm not going to stick any more time into this until we know that we have this nailed down to where this is going to end up. So it's kind of interesting how this works. This was not an easy one to do, to say the least. So, but here, let me give you a few tips about this and on what I do when I approach something like this. So this particular one, I've been going back and forth with the engineer, what do you call the land engineer, whoever does the survey. A surveyor. Well, he also has got an engineer name in his name. I don't know what whatever it's called, whatever. So I got this DWG file from him, which was really nice. So anytime you can get a DWG file of your plot plan, get it. I mean, it'll save you a boatload of time. But when you get a DWG file from anybody, you're going to get a bajillion layers. All right. This is just pretty typical. You're going to get a whole boatload of layers, annos. I mean, they're sending you every single layer that they've got in the DWG file. So never bring a DWG file into the plan you're working on, because you really mess up your layer sets. Bring it into a blank plan and let's carve it out to get just the layers we want to get in our plan. So the way you do that, I wanted this. I didn't want any of these other layers in my plan. So what I did is I brought this in. I started massaging a little bit, and what I like to do is I will open my project layers deal right here, and I will click on the items I want to bring into my chief architect plan and nothing else. And I always like to put the word plot. This is the second time I've done it, so it's plot too. But I will always go in and I'll make a copy of that, and then what I'll do is I'll turn off that layer, and then I'll go to the next line. And I'll just put that word in front of everything that I click on until I got a blank screen of just the things that I want to bring into that plan. Okay. Then what I do is I go in to my layers and I select them all and I turn them all off. And then I type in the word plot, because that's what I put in front of it. In this case, it's plot 2. And that's all my plot 2 layers. So these are just the lines I wanted in this. There's probably another 100 or more layers I don't want to bring into my plan. So now I'm going to turn those all on, and now I'm only going to get the items I want in my plan. I've already done the rotate on this. So there's what I want to bring into my plan. Now, before
you go on, Dan, just
Yeah.
a suggestion: when you're selecting those items that you want to keep, use your match properties to select everything of one color or everything on the same layer or something like that, so that you can sort it out faster.
Well, you only need to do that because you're just everything that's on that layer you're going to shut off. So
Okay.
So once you
So you're just looking for the layer.
I'm just looking for the layer of the items in the plan
Okay.
that I want. So because you're going to get, how many layers are you going to get in here that don't have anything on them? So you're going to get all of this kind of stuff where there was nothing in the plan to start with.
Right.
And you can tell because there's no plus sign in front of it. So so that's what I like to do, because I don't want all those layers in my layer set in Chief Architect, because again, it just messes up my whole layer set. So then what I did with this particular one, okay, so you could do your terrain a couple of different ways. In this case, I wanted to create 3D terrain, but I'm not going to rotate my building to fit the terrain. Not a chance. Okay.
Before you go on, I want to tell you a little trick. When you get super, super busy scene like this, I actually turn on all layers. I use the layer hider tool to hide the ones that I want. I then sort my active layer display options based on what's displayed, and then I invert them so that it leaves me with only the ones I wanted.
Sure. And what Renee's talking about is this tool right here. Okay, I've added that to my toolbar. That's not on your toolbar by default. It's the layer hider. That's under Tools, Layer Settings, Layer Hider. So if you want that on your toolbar, you have to right-click. You have to customize your toolbars and add that icon. So look for Layer.
That one's
hider.
pretty essential anytime you're working with another
drag it up on. Yep. It's so nice to work with. So like in here, so I want to shut some things off. The one thing I can't shut off in this view are the secondary contour lines. Those I can't click on because Chief generates those automatically. So if I want to turn those off, I do have to go into here to shut those off. My primary and secondary contours, and that's the only way I can shut those off. But if you want to get rid of anything else in your plan, just click the hide layer tool and you can shut anything off you want at any time. So it really is a handy tool. I use it all the time. So that's one of those you want to put on your toolbar. But back to bringing this into my plan finally. So again, I'm not going to do a plan footprint. That's another tool in Chief where you keep the survey pointing north. The top of it's north to the top of the screen, and then you can rotate your house. But you're not really rotating your model. You're rotating an image of the house. We're not doing that. In this case, I want to create 3D terrain. So I had to rotate the terrain to fit in my plan. Now, what I did in this case was, okay, I've got my plan, and this is the one where I haven't done the work yet. I haven't done the road and the terrain contouring yet. But what I did is I clicked near the outside of my house. Okay, so when you click near the outside of your house, and I had to go up here to this floor to do that, you'll get a highlight around your building. I've got a pool here that should be shut off. But anyway, what I did was I clicked this button right here to make a outline of the building. All right. And then what I did is I went copy. Then I went back to my DWG and I hit paste hold position, another icon that you want to put on your toolbar. I don't understand why they don't add this one by default. Such a valuable tool. And here's where I need my survey to be, right there. Okay. So what I did was I rotated my survey. And so I would have had to I have to rotate this. So I'm going to start rotating a little bit. Okay, so let's get it, somewhat close, but I know it's not going to be exact. I know that my building needs to be, this needs to be a straight line, 90 degrees or whatever you call it. So I'm going to click on one of the lines, open its dialog, and look at the angle of that line. So here's my angle. So I need to subtract that from 90 degrees. And the difference is how much more I need to rotate my plan. Okay, so, or that box that I had open. Here's a simple way you could do that, by the way. If you go over here and highlight everything and go to transform replicate, and I want to rotate this. I don't want to move it. I just want to rotate it. I'm going to type in 90 minus, and I didn't copy that number, did I? I did not. Damn it. I got to copy that number first. Let's go cancel this. Let's go back in here. So I want to copy that number back to transform replicate. And I'm going to go 90 degrees minus that number. Tab, and it didn't work. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
Why'd you hit tab?
To activate it. 90.
Just, oh, yeah, because tab will take you to a different field. Yeah.
Yeah. It should subtract it now and leave the difference. What am I doing wrong?
You're doing it relative or absolute angle?
Doesn't matter. I'm just trying to get a number here. Okay, it's not working for some reason. So if I go 90 minus 89, there it left 1. Okay, whatever. So just calculate it. It should have worked. Of course, when you're on a show like this and you do something like that and it doesn't work. So then I just clicked on this and rotated it that little bit. And then I had it exactly where I needed it. Then I highlighted the whole thing. Point to point move. I'm going to move a spot here of this to that box I just pasted in with pasted, this wouldn't have been here. It would have only been that one box, paste hold position box. And then I would have just selected and point to pointed that same spot to there. And that's how I got this to be in the exact spot that I needed to put it back into my plan. So then I went like this, copy, and I'm only going to copy these layers now, no other layers. And then I'm going to go back to my plan and I'm going to paste it. See, that was this one. Then you're going to paste it, hold position. It's going to be in the exact spot that you need it. And there you go. So you've got the terrain in the exact spot you need it in your plan without messing with your house, because you don't want to mess with that. And now if you ever want to turn those layers on and off in this view, just select plot 2. And you just turn those layers. You can, I've created a plan view for this and everything, but I'll just turn the display off on all of those. Select all, display off. Come on. Come on. Why is it not turning off? There we go. Now I've got everything that I want off again. So in my plan that I'm working on, I could just go to my plot plan, my survey mapping view, and turn that on and off as I need it. So anyway, that works really well. So that's a function of combining a few different things in your plan to make it work. Questions? I know I went pretty fast on that. Main points being, don't ever bring a DWG into the plan you're working on. Select the items you want, rename them, copy that group of items into your plan, and then work with it that way. All right.
Let's look at that drive. Let's look at that driveway situation a little bit.
Yeah. So if you're getting unevenness at the garage door or anywhere in your plan, first of all, make sure that you're not crossing over another terrain contouring line. As soon as this is the rule number 1 when you're doing contours. I'm not going to do it to this one because this takes about a minute to regen the model now because there's so much math going on here. But let me go do a different one. Let me get a simpler plan open here. Let's go back to, and by the way, once I had it pasted in the plan, then I just took the main contour lines that I wanted to keep and I converted those to Chief and I put the right number in there. So 12, 12, 80, 12, 90. So this went up 10 feet at a time. So you use a convert tool. You're going to make it into an elevation line. And then you're going to set the number height for it. And then when that's all done, then you just set the number height for your house, for the building, in this view here. Set that by changing the height above terrain. So you see here, I wanted to use the numbers that they had, the sea level numbers that they had in the plot plan. So what I did was I converted my number style to decimal feet, which is what you're looking at there. And that's that. So that's where my garage floor height needs to be, at that height, in order to fit on the plot where we want it to fit. So that's a 1384 or whatever it was right there. All right. Something like that. Let me get out of this. Questions? Does anybody have questions out there at this point?
Pin David B's comment. He's looking for.
Let me just go show something here real quick about terrain and why you might be getting some roughness.
Said he was struggling with what you were just discussing since day one. And then he says, my problem now is getting cheap to use any geodetic coordinate system so I can use my plan to use GNSS to stake on. I think GNSS is maybe like some kind of a total station.
Is that where you're getting the number? You're importing it with the so you go file, import, and you're importing terrain, GPS data or terrain data?
Importing GPS data. Yeah, and I've never used that at all. So
I've used it once and it worked great.
So you can import. Can you export GPS data? I guess that wouldn't matter. So you can import GPS data. Alternatively, I know you could always do, this is more of a manual thing, but you could always place markers.
I think the way GPS data works, and again, I have zero training in this. This is all speculation on my part. So when you're, and I've done this on plans where I've laid out a grid, and the client went out and did this. Actually, he laid out all these grids on his property, and he got me a height at every 10-foot interval. All right, so we set up a grid like that, and I think in Chief I just put points at each of those, and it worked great. And I think when you import GPS data, this is what you're getting, a grid like this with that kind of data in it that will put your terrain in. I think we're getting some feedback somewhere from somebody. I'm not sure what that is.
Kevin looks guilty.
Oh.
I'm just reading about GNSS data. So.
Okay.
Gotcha. I would say also, like, kind of the hand done way of doing it is you could put a bunch of markers in your plan, and markers will report their XY data.
It's John.
So that if you you can script a macro to say that this is
John, can you mute yourself?
Longitude and latitude based on XY data. But that's a little bit advanced.
All right. So when you're doing terrain, never use points. Never ever use elevation points unless you're using a grid system. All right. If you get a point in your plan accidentally and you can't see it because that's what it looks like, you're going to fight with your plan all day long because you won't know what the heck is going on here. So then you're going to use elevation lines or splines or regions. I use a lot of regions for my terrain. It works really well. And then lines and splines would be secondary. So, but I've just drawn some lines here that would be elevation lines. So if I take this one, here, let's just use regions like I normally do. So I want to make a walkout. I'm going to use elevation region, and I'm just going to draw a box here. I'm going to draw a box here. I'm going to leave this box set to 0 because my terrain is set to 0, which is, I don't want that. I want it to be about 2 feet. I want the plywood on the first floor to be 2 feet above the terrain at that one point. And then I'm going to take this one, I'm going to make it -8 feet or 9 feet or whatever you want. And when you're done, you will have, you've shaped your terrain contour box that way. Okay, and of course that's you know, if I was going to have a drive into my garage there, I wouldn't put it like that. I'd need to change this number to probably 12 inches or whatever. Oops, wrong way. Am I still set to decimal feet? I am. That would not help. 12
Explain why you
inches.
just did that. Why'd you just do that?
Do that number thing?
Yeah, what did that change?
Because I was working on that other plan, adding decimal feet. I wanted all my numbers
so
to
that if you typed in 12 and hit enter with no foot or inch markers, what was it doing?
It's putting decimal feet in, 12 feet.
It's assuming
12
feet.
inches, right?
Right. So
So
it'll
I want it
assume
to
your
be,
number style.
So I'm going to go feet and inches. I never have to type the inch sign for feet and inches. It always assumes inches. Okay, so but it's showing 12 inches there. So there's that. If you're getting some stuff going on in the garage, check that you don't, you know, one of the things I see in a lot of plans is that you'll have a lot of stuff going on. You know, you'll have contours going everywhere. And one of those, you know, so if you have something like this and you've got a contour that's just going over a little bit even. So here's my 0 contour. And then here's another one. And let's just move that right here. Let's make that 24 inches. All right. And let's take a look at that and see if it did anything. It should have. Yeah. See, we got some goofy stuff going on now. It's the number one reason you'll get goofy stuff going on is because the lines are overlapping each other. If I move that back a little bit, now Chief will ramp this up from this height to that height, and I'll get a little hill there, but it won't be as crazy as what you just saw. Okay, so now I'm getting a nice hill here. All right, that's the only thing I can think of that caused those crazy things. The other thing that happens to cause those crazy things is you might have a retaining wall here. You have a lower part right here, and you have a higher part here. So for some reason, sometimes Chief will leak that. So the best thing I can say for that one is to take your retaining wall. So if you're doing this with a straight retaining wall, terrain wall, not a retaining wall, terrain wall, you draw that in, take that wall and go into the where is it here? Terrain, oh, that's a path. I don't want a path. Did I choose the wrong one? I always choose the wrong one here. Straight terrain wall, retaining wall. Retaining wall, thank you. So take that. First of all, if your wall is intersecting into the other wall, what you want to do is you want to go into the wall, go into your wall type, go define this wall, and tell it to be under wall properties, a partition wall. So a partition wall will just bump into another wall. It won't extend into it. And that should clean up maybe that will clean up some of the funkiness that happens. So if I go here and I put another terrain, let's put another elevation region here. Let's make this -4 feet. Okay, so I want this to be 0 above the wall, 4 feet on the other side of the wall. And now we've got a nice step down there. Okay, and it's not leaking up, causing all of that goofy stuff going on there. That tends to help. But there's situations, if you get walls coming in at different angles and things like that, yeah, it can cause those. Sometimes you just say, well, it's the best I'm going to do. You know, another way you can fix that is take a terrain hole. That would be right here. And put a hole over that area where it's getting all funky. And just draw a slab at that spot to clean it up. And sometimes that can do it. So here, if I would have had a bunch of bumpy, you know, crazy stuff going on here, I delete it all out of there with the hole, and now I can just put a slab in there to level it up, if that's applicable. We're almost out of time, man. We haven't even talked about templates. All right, this is pretty normal. This is normal for us.
Do any of you guys know when you put in a sun angle, latitude and longitude, where it's placing that on your plan? Is it placing it on 0, 0? Any ideas?
I'm just
Where it's
curious.
placing what, the sun?
Because if
In
that
that
places it on 0, 0, that may be an answer to this question. How that could be
when you do
done.
a sun angle and it's the longitude and latitude, I think it assumes the sun is directly central to the model. Maybe, I'm not sure, but we don't have any reference to those longitude and latitude that's usable at all.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm thinking I might this is Friday, and I like to give out free stuff on Fridays. I might give out a tool that is just a marker that uses a macro, where you set the reference coordinate of some datum that you already know, and then every next marker you use with that macro will set what that coordinate is based on your reference datum.
English.
So look for that later. I'll try to put that together.
English.
I'm with you, Kevin. I don't know what he said either. So.
No, I don't. I think it was Portuguese. I'm not sure what he was saying there. Could you rephrase that in some use case scenario that the rest of us could understand?
So David B is trying to use some kind of total station that I am guessing has a GPS system inside of it, so that it knows where it is longitudinally and latitudinally. Did I say that right? And so what he's looking for is he needs datum points all over his plot plan so that he can go take that station out to the site, look at his piece of paper, and pull those measurements from those various data points.
Right.
And so he needs something to be able to tell him what the longitude and latitude is. So I'm saying I'm going to make a marker with a macro where you have to input what the, one datum point, where you're saying, I know what the longitude and latitude of the corner of this house is. And that's what I need you to input. And then I'll give you a macro to put in a marker where you place your markers all over the plan, and it will tell you the longitude and latitude of those markers.
So if that's something that's of interest to you guys, drop Renee online. Tell them you're interested in that.
Yeah.
And
for everyone else,
for everybody else, don't bother.
Yeah.
You would have to also have that related to your north arrow.
No, this is just going to be totally separate from that. This is just dumb data so that you have a reference point when you go out to the field.
Well, I think you just made David's day.
Cool. We make someone's day. That's what matters. All right. So we're about wrapped here. You guys, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I know we covered some, beginner, intermediate, and advanced stuff here. I do a lot of these crazy terrain, not a lot, but I do a fair amount of these crazy terrains. So it's, yes, I have figured out a lot of this by trial and error. Someone asked about that. If you're doing this stuff enough, you tend to figure stuff out. So it works.
You could do a whole show on terrain.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
A couple shows.
Do a whole day on terrain when it really comes down to it. Even like that one I was showing, let me open that real quick. There was a ton of trial and error in just getting this to be the way I wanted it. Now, this was fairly simple because the terrain...
You're not showing your screen.
Thank you, John. This was fairly easy because I was given the information. He gave me all of the contour line, the numbers. He gave me the numbers to put in the driveway. Some of these didn't work. I had to readjust, make them a little bit different to get it to where I wanted it. But part of what we had going on here was we had to try to make most of our changes within that space that you see highlighted right there. And it really actually worked quite well. So when I took and cut out some of the terrain lines, and by the way, so this terrain line used to run through to the other 1320 right here. Okay. So I needed to get rid of it in here because I had to put a different height in here. Okay, I had to add my own terrain boxes. This is a contour box. This is one of those elevation regions that's flat. So I wanted that area to be flat there. So when you're working with these kind of lines, You can't just click on it and delete that right there. What you have to use is this tool right here. This tool right here allows you to isolate just that line. Then I can delete it. Now I could delete that piece of that line. So that's a really handy tool right there. What do they call that thing? Either disconnect selected edge. So you use that a lot when you're working with terrain like this.
Draw a box in the center of that.
Center of what?
The center of your terrain data stuff there. Just over on the side there. Not on the house, just over on the side.
Box?
Just a box, like it's going to represent a house footprint.
Okay.
And then select it.
Okay. And open it.
Or no, sorry. Just select it and then hit your trim tool and draw it through there.
Oh,
you have to draw it really close to the other line to get it.
To get rid of it that way too. So that worked too. So yeah, good point, John. That is another good way to do that. So thank you. So what I could have done, I had my outline of my house here. I could have just used that as my trim to trim those lines out of the inside of the house. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I do that all the time.
You don't need it for the house necessarily, but for the driveway, you would need it for the driveway to trim it back and redo your terrain for the driveway.
Yes, and I did have to do that with some of these lines. Amazingly enough, I didn't have to change that many of the contour lines. It worked really well. So I was really pleased how this turned out. But a lot of these little lines, I'm not using all of these. I use this one, and this one to get the slope to go down the way I wanted to. So you don't have to overdo it with Chief to get the contouring to work. Let Chief fill in those hills by itself. It does a pretty good job of doing that automatically. So it really works well. Here, I'll bring up a 3D view. Come on. Oh shit, it's building the terrain. This is where it got to be a real pain in the butt in Chief, because there's so much math going on in this one. And I have a pretty powerful computer, so it has to figure out that stuff every time I do something. So
you could do a lot of that work in a different plan and just use CAD lines to represent the house, and then at least you're not rebuilding the house then.
True. But I think there's just so much going on here that I still would have had that. But anyway, because this is a lot of contouring. Anyway, you guys, thank you. Please check out our page and consider meeting us up and do some training and record lane, whatever. Have some fun. Anything else? We done?
Yeah, let's get out of here.
We had a lot of fun today.
That was fun. I like doing these kind of off the cuff, make shit up as we go classes. So,
and Dan, you learned a ton. You learned a ton today. It was great.
I learned a few good things, a few good tips. So thank you guys. And I hope you guys on the call learned something too. So see you guys next time. Bye now, everybody.